Welcome back, photographers. We are back here today in Photoshop to talk about our last video lesson, and it's all about a time-honored tradition in photography, black and white photography. Now, out of necessity, this is how photography started. Prior to color, obviously, photographs were in black and white only. Now, it's unique almost to see images in black and white. So I'm going to show you how to take your digital images which are captured in color and revert them to black and white. So let's get started. File, open. We're going to go back to that same folder we've been in. So courses, art, yearbook lessons. Remember, you may have to find the courses folder over here under this PC. And you're looking for the black and white file. Okay, I have this lovely picture of my favorite band of all time, the Foo Fighters here. And we're going to turn this into black and white. Now, I'm going to be honest, not every photo looks great in black and white. So sometimes you don't know until you try it, until you open that picture. But even the worst photos sometimes can be improved through turning it into black and white in a very specific way. There's lots of ways to make an image black and white in Photoshop. I'm going to show you a couple of which we're not going to use, but I'm going to show them to you anyways, just in case you're in a rush. So you can go to Image, Adjustments, and you can straight up just go down to black and white. Oops, I lied. We can go to Image Adjustments and go to our Hue and Saturation and take our saturation all the way down. That's one way to do it. I'm not going to do it that way. The other way is to go to Image Adjustments and then go to Desaturate, which is at the bottom. That's a one click. But both of those don't give you much control as an artist. I'm going to show you the best way, which is actually the way I accidentally showed you to begin with, because I'm used to going that way. So we go to Image, Adjustments, and you're going to go to black and white. All right, so if you don't already have the image open up, make sure you get it open. Go to Image Adjustments, black and white. And now we see some dials over here, and I want to explain things. So because this is a CMYK image, you've got all of your colors broken out here. It obviously has removed all of the reds, the yellows, and greens. But what you can do here, because sometimes when this happens, it gets washed out, you lose some of the detail because your colors are similar values. That's really hard to understand. You could have a blue and a green that in color look very different, but because they're the same value, that means the same level of darkness. Once you remove the hue, which is the green or the blue, they then look identical in the black and white, so you lose that contrast. So what you can do is you can fine tune those colors. So like all of my reds, I'd be like, well, you know what, I want to make the reds that were in the image darker, or I need to make them lighter, or the same with the yellow. All my yellows need to maybe go a little bit darker, or my greens need to go up or down. So this is where you can fine tune. Obviously, look here, this isn't doing much. Well, it's because there wasn't much green in the image, right? What I'm looking for is good, strong contrast, nice darks and lights, but I still want to see detail in there too. Now, we're still going to fine tune this thing. But I'm going to go ahead and let you kind of wiggle your dials how you want. You can turn your preview on and off. However, it doesn't do much for you because you're completely removing the color. We're more worried about, we're not improving it, we're completely changing it. So you just need to dial it into where you feel it looks good. That looks good to me, and I'm going to click OK. All right, before I call this done, there's a couple things you can still do. So we can still do levels. So we can go up to our Image Adjustments levels. And I don't use auto tone. I never use auto tone once I go to black and white because it's not going to work. So this is where you can manually dial things up and down. I'm losing some of my detail, so I'm pulling my midtones up a little bit. But I still like some of the darkness in some of here. So I'm going to go back to my burn tool. I'm going to show you this. You don't have to necessarily do this with me. But you can try to use some of these. I just need to feel like I need to bump up the darks in just a few of the places here. Not everywhere though. He's a little darker. Like he's a little washed out here. But I also want to bring out some of the highlights, so then I'm going to go back to my dodge tool. This is review. We've done these. We just did them with color photos before. I'm going to bring out some of the highlights in his face a little bit. Same with here. I feel like this guy's shirt needs to come out. highlights in his arms for sure. He's a little gray. Same with here. Just bumping some of those highlights. His face is a little bit shadow. Now I might want to go back in my history pan and kind of look at my before and after. So I'm going to go back to when I originally desaturated a little bit further. Am I making it better or worse? And I can just make that decision. I'm going to say, I think it looks better. I think his face is a little washed out to me. So I'm going to go back to that burn tool. And I want to increase the shadows on his face. Oh yeah, there we go. Much better. Same with this guy's face right here. Alright. If I want to, I can add a vignette here. So I'm going to review here. Let's add a vignette. So I'm going to grab my elliptical marquee. I'm going to click and drag. Move that up. I'm going to inverse this. And then I'm going to take the brightness down. I want to really darken those edges. Oh yeah, much better. And then the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to run a finishing filter. And this is up to you again. If you want to sharpen it, you use that unsharp mask filter. So sharpen unsharp mask. So if I want to crisp it up, which that looks pretty good, I actually kind of like that. I can also do the surface blur if I wanted to. Remember, if you're going to use that surface blur, I would make a copy layer first. I always do that with that surface blur. So let me review. Drag down a copy. I'm going to blur that with my surface blur. That's way too much. I'm going to go down to 3. Oh, I kind of like that too. That looks pretty good. But then I'm going to erase back through bring back some of the detail in the eyes. That's a little too much. And the face. And I think that looks good. So I'm going to layer, flatten image. So stop the video, either run the sharpen mask filter or the surface blur. Again, if you're going to do the surface blur, make that copy layer. Slow the video down, go back if you need to. And then now let's save this. So we're going to go to File, Save As. We're going to save this in the cloud. Save it in your edited photos, black and white, and then with your name, and click Save. And then make sure you share this with me. We're going to close this. We're going to do this again, but we're going to do it 2 more times. We're going to speed things up a little bit here. Close that file. We're going to reopen the original file again. So we're going back to On Your Computer. Going back to that yearbook lessons folder, so courses, art, yearbook lessons. Open up the drive over here if you need to. Grab that black and white photo again. Let's review those steps. We need to make it black and white again. I'm going to go a little bit faster here. So stop the video, make it black and white, dial up. It should come up as your whatever presets you last hit. Click OK. All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to turn this thing into a sepia tone color image. So sepia tone is just a slightly different variation of a black and white. It just warms it up a little bit, so it's not just gray. Instead of a neutral gray, it makes it a warm gray, so almost like a brownish gray. So it's very easy to do. We're going to go up to Image, Adjustments, and we're going to go to Photo Filter. Image, Adjustments, Photo Filter. There's lots of different photo filters in here. If you click the drop down, you're going to see there's like cooling, or it puts this like blue tint to it. Lots of different ones, but we're going to scroll down to sepia tone. So like I said, you can see it tints it brown just a little bit. You can go all the way to the right, and it's going to make it very brown, so it's going to look kind of old-timey, like you were to go to Wisconsin Dells or one of those places. You can buy, this is literally what they're doing. They're just taking a color image, they're making it black and white, and then they're putting a sepia tint to it, a really strong one. And then it's just that dark color because of the chemicals that were used back in the day to make images. They would over time deteriorate, basically. The acids and the inks and the papers would cause the ink to turn kind of brown, or the paper to turn brown, so that's why they appeared brown. Or you can just make it subtle. But either way, I do want you to add a slight sepia tint to it. Either it can be subtle or it can be crazy. It's up to you. You can always go before and after. You won't notice. It's hard to tell, especially if you're putting a low tinted sepia. You're like, well, that still looks black and white to me. Turn your preview on and off. You'll notice, whoa, that grayscale is very gray. You don't realize how cold it is. So what a lot of photographers will do for black and white, if you're doing portraiture, they will put a slight sepia tint on it just because it warms it up and it's not quite so cold looking. It humanizes the people a little bit. All right. So when you're happy, go ahead and click OK. And then we're going to save this, save as, saving it in your cloud. This time, take out the black and white. I want you to call it sepia, S-E-P-I-A, and then with your name, save this thing, and then share it with me. All right, one last one. We're going to do this one more time. Close that file. Open the same exact photo again. So on your computer, black and white. It should be coming up to the same folder each time, so it makes it a little bit easier. Let's make this thing black and white. So lots of review here. Clicking OK. I'm going to make it sepia tint. Now, you do not have to do the sepia tint step here, but I want to just because well, you know what? I'm going to let you pick. Either make it sepia tint or use one of the other photo filters so you can play, like maybe you want to use the magenta or whatever. Violet. Go crazy. Pick one of the other ones if you don't want to use sepia. And then we're going to run one more photo filter over here, and it's called the color lookup. We're going to go to Image, Adjustments, Color Lookup. And what color lookup does is it has some presets in here up under the top drop down. Don't worry about the bottom two. But it gives you different effects. Think of them as like movie effects. So if you were wanting to put a mood here, so like Edgy Amber is going to add weird colors to it. It's going to add a really intense sepia tone. You've got like Kodak, which is going to give you an old school photography feel. Late sunset, I love some of these. It just gives you a really interesting visual effect. Now the problem with these though is you really can't control the amount to them, but you can still go through, find one. Some of them are going to be really dark or really light. I'm going to show you one way you can kind of affect this so it isn't quite so strong. So let's click cancel to this. If you want to make that effect not quite so strong, in your layers panel, click and drag that layer, that background layer down to that plus button again. We're making a copy just like we do a surface bar, but this time we're going to go back up to that color lookup, and I'm going to grab one of the ones that were pretty severe. So let's grab one of them that's kind of maybe a little too dark. I'm going to settle on Late Sunset. I love this one. It's a little too much for my taste. I'm going to go ahead and click OK with this, but here's how I'm going to soften this thing. Now, because I've got it on a background copy, I'm going to take my opacity. So opacity is up here. Opacity just means how see-through it is. Because we have a copy layer, I'm going to make that top layer just a little bit more see-through. So it's going to show the one that's underneath a little bit more. So see, that's the underneath one. It just softens it. Now I'm going to go to Layer, Flatten Image, and now I'm going to save this file, Save As. We're going to save it in the Creative Cloud. We're going to call this Color Lookup. It would help if I could spell correctly. With my name. Click Save. Share this with me. And then go back to Google Classroom now that you are done and hit Mark as Done to the black and white video lesson assignment. So you should have 3 if you want to. Make it interesting. Before, let's just open them up so we can look at them all together. So this was our original black and white. Here it is in sepia. Here it is in the color lookup. So notice just slightly different feel for each of them. Black and white, sepia, color lookup. All right, excellent job. If you have time remaining, feel free to open up your own images and have some fun taking some color images and turning them black and white. Great job, photographers.